All right, we are at our final speaker. So I will just remind you for a final time, if that 50-50 draw was of interest, you can go again to hatson5050.ca, I believe it was. How can I already? Yeah, hatson5050.ca. Also, a little shout out again to our presenting sponsor, Fisher and Paykel. And that is it. Let's get to our final presentation. So, Amy, you've been patiently waiting. You were here at 8:30 for a little bit of a sound check earlier. So
I know, but you recognize that I'm the one presenter that doesn't have this coordinated, gorgeous background. So I'm gonna have to really pull through with the delivery.
Have a different type of gorgeous background. And if you had seen what happened to Amy's face when she tried to put a background, you would agree that maybe this is the better way to go. Something
It's terrifying.
very dark happened there. It would have taken away from your presentation. So I'll introduce you properly, Amy. You are a registered social worker. You work with Toronto Wellness. You have over a decade of experience providing counseling as it relates to trauma and mental health.
Yep.
We're going to speak about something that, earlier Debbie Singh was asking, what's one word that describes this time? And she took a poll, and anxiety, worry, uncertainty, these came up repeatedly. And so you will be happy to know that Amy's talk is about managing your uncertainty and giving yourself permission to prioritize you. Amy Deacon, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for introducing me. That was lovely. I wish I could take you everywhere with me when I go into like the grocery store or something, they'd be so impressed at No Frills. Guys, I'm mindful that you have had so much information delivered to you, thankfully in this morning. And so I would love for us to end on a little bit more of a selfish note. We are going to be talking exactly as Ali described, that we're going to be talking about uncertainty and anxiety and how to cope with it. But what's most important to me, especially as a practitioner, is none of this information is useful unless you can actually apply it to yourself. So as I go through this conversation, we're going to take deliberate pauses. And I want you to pause and just take a moment to reflect on how you are doing. How have you been doing during this season? I can't tell you, I meet with clients every single day. They'll say, Joe, how are you? Sally, how are you? Busy, like stressed, but like fine. And in my 10 years, this is the first time where, as a collective, I'm like, we're not fine. We are fried. When March of 2020 hit, it's almost like we all went into white knuckling life. We were white knuckling to figure out what is this pandemic about? How do we work from home? How do we take care of our parent that's in a long-term care home? How do we, adjust to online schooling? We were being pulled in a million different directions. And what I saw as a collective is we put our foot on the gas pedal in March of 2020. And so many of us did not let up. We never stopped to say, you know what? I'm exhausted. You know what? I'm overworked. I'm so drained of looking at screen after screen all day long. And so what it has resulted in is this accumulation of stress, but also looking forward, we're still lacking that clarity. And there is that uncertainty. That sense that we were in control, that like narrative that we kind of were able to sell ourselves a little bit easier prior to 2020, it got burst. So what do we do now? That's what we're going to dive into. That was my little intro. So just so that we're all on the same page, when we talk about stress, and I think that you guys have touched on this a little bit, but stress isn't inherently awful. Like, for instance, doing a presentation, it's stressful, right? But it's a good stress because it means, Amy, be on your game. You care about this, show up for people and do a good job, right? Like, we stress over our relationships because we love them. We stress over our kids because, I don't know, we don't want them, living in our basement till they're like, 72 years old, whatever it may be. And so sometimes stress can be misunderstood. In short bursts, stress can be fantastic and activating, almost like your core values and almost a work ethic, that without it, it's almost like you don't care, okay? That's the good stress. What we're experiencing in November of 2021 is prolonged stress. It's chronic stress. And that is the chronic stress that we really see taking a toll on our mental, emotional, and physical health. For by far and large, when we have stress that is unaddressed, prolonged, and chronic, we will see an uptick in anxiety, the diagnosis of anxiety, the diagnosis of depression, and burnout. I've never ever in my life seen the amount of people burning out from just being so depleted and feeling like they've just given all of themselves and haven't had the chance to feed themselves. So I want to pause for a second and ask each of you to reflect. Don't need to answer this, it's just within yourself. Do you relate to that? So do you relate to a couple of things? Do you relate to putting your foot on the gas pedal in March of 2020, and have you let up? And if you let up, what did that look like? Did you take a week off? Did you schedule Fridays? Like, what did you do to take care of yourself? What did you do to refuel? And do you relate to any of those emotions? A sense of anxiety, that sense of dread? Oh my gosh, like an incessant panic, right? Depression, where it's either sadness or it's just like, tap me out, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Is it burnout, where you suddenly find yourself being snippy and snappy with things that you used to, kind of enjoy, but now it's just you have no more bandwidth? Does any of that relate to you and to what you're experiencing? So I'd love for you to pause and identify that. The second thing that I'll say is it's important to remember that from my perspective, mental health is on a spectrum. So on this side, you have wellness, where you've got energy, you've got clarity, you've got intention. And I want to make this super, super clear. When you are in a state of wellness, it doesn't mean that your life is going great. I have people that are in the thick of a diagnosis, that are in the thick of a divorce, that are in the thick of a job loss, and they are still well. It's not because life is going well, but it's because how they maneuver during those hardships is there's an emphasis of resilience. There's an emphasis of what's within my control. That's what I'm going to focus on, right? Very similar to what the presentation that we just heard, like really focusing on like how we feed ourselves, sleep, all of that. That's wellness. And if this is you, give yourself a pat on the back, but also don't take it for granted. What are you doing to allow yourself to be in this state? Further along the line is when we see that stress. So those short bursts where we have like a deadline, or we have the projects, or we have to like help our kid with their behavior, whatever it may be, but short bursts of stress. But if this is sort of like where the red flag has got to be blowing in the wind, because if we don't address it, right around the corner is when we're actually at risk of being symptomatic again of that anxiety, depression, and burnout. So on that mental health spectrum, and know that we all ebb and flow. We all ebb and flow, but where are you at? Okay. So I hate social media. I have it because work demands it of me, but I can't stand social media. And I say that because how many memes do we see where it's just like, practice self-care, get your nails done, or practice self-care, go for a massage, go grab a drink with your friends, or that's not the self-care that I see people struggling with. What the self-care that I see people struggling with is giving themselves permission to have space, giving themselves permission to have boundaries, giving themselves permission to have limits. If we were to all do a collective pause right now and go Google, what does self-care look like? We're all going to find the same results. Good sleep, good nutrition, talk to a mental health expert, meditation, exercise, and we will talk about that in just a second. But from my perspective as a clinician, it's not that we don't know what to do, it's that we have so much difficulty implementing it. The biggest culprit of this is we struggle with saying no. I cannot take on that project. I'm at my max capacity. Mom, love you to death. And as much as I want to join in on a spiraling conversation about COVID and vaccinations, I don't have the emotional capacity. Let me call you on the weekend when I'm not so overwhelmed. Or like, we associate that saying no is being rude. It's being selfish. It's not playing nice. And I think that there's also gender norms that feed this. For men, our men and our boys are supposed to be strong and be able to handle whatever we throw at them. So why are they saying no? Right? Like, be strong and like suck it up, buttercup. And for our women, we're supposed to be like so nurturing, like the ever Mother Teresa, just giving and giving of ourselves. And so as a collective, we're horrible at being like, I actually can't afford to take that on, because if I continue to say yes to others and repeatedly say no to myself, I will be a shell of a human being. We need to learn how to say no. Again, just like that quick little pause. How are you at saying no? Okay. The second thing that I see really, really tripping us up in terms of giving ourselves that permission to prioritize our self-care, it's always after the project is done, then I'll take care of myself. After holidays, like then I'll do it. Once I get the pay raise, then I'll book the massage. It's like a carrot that's constantly dangled. And I think if there's one thing that should be learned throughout the past couple of years, it's that our friends can encourage us, our family can support us, our work can preach to take care of ourselves, but the only person that can actually enact it is us. And that means that we stop dangling the carrot with ourselves. We stop saying, after this season, then I'll do it. No. Because if we are hoping to create anything of quality in our lives, whether it's quality relationships, whether it's a quality career, whether it's a quality home life, whatever it may be, the quality of our output is going to be completely dependent on the quality of our input. And so we can't afford to continue to push that carrot and say, at this point, we've got to be careful with that story that we tell ourselves. Because I've seen people tell themselves that story, Amy, after this season, after this deadline, after the divorce, and it's been 10 years. Literally, I'm no exaggeration. It's been 10 years and we're still waiting for that time for the person to be able to sit within themselves and just pause. The last thing that I see as and this actually might be the biggest culprit is, you guys might disagree, but that's okay. I'm open for disagreements. I think particularly in North America, we live in a culture where there's so much value on money. There's so much value in your worth being a direct reflection of how much you earn. And as a result, we are bombarded with messages that promote the hustle culture, which sounds cute, but the truth of it is that it actually promotes burnout. Don't sleep. I was literally speaking to a client yesterday and we were talking about burnout. And she said, can I be honest with you? And I said, absolutely. She said, I have not gone to the bathroom all day and I didn't eat lunch because I've just been going. Like that's where we've gotten as a collective. Like we push our physical needs to the side and we treat ourselves like we're machines as opposed to human beings. I think that it is incredible to have goals. I think it's incredible to want to accomplish something, but I think we just have to be extra mindful that we're not accomplishing things at the expense of our health, our mental health, and what I perceive is the one thing that truly gives life that sense of wealth, which is relationships. Right? I think when we start to mess with the people that we love the most, when we start to mess with our heads and when we start to mess with our bodies, we're giving away so much power, right? That really should be residing within us. So again, just to recap that, the three big things that I see interfering with our ability to prioritize and to give ourselves permission to take care of ourselves. Number one, inability to say no. Again, just a quiet pause. How do you deal with that? Number two, putting everything before yourself. Whether it's others, whether it's work, whether it's, after this is done, then I'll get it done. Okay. Because we'll struggle with that feeling of selfishness. And then the third one is treating ourselves like we're machines. It's okay. I don't need that much sleep. It's okay. Like water schmatter. Did you listen to the previous presentation? Nutrition, whatever. I'll just grab whatever I can. We need to learn how to feed ourselves, and not just physically, but like mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of it. Okay. So again, one other thing that I just want to emphasize, but often I think because we can live in a culture where a lot of us struggle with people pleasing, we can wait for other people to be like, you know what, Amy, I hope you book off a Friday. Or what are you doing this weekend? Did you have any time carved out, where perhaps you leave your kids with your partner and you can just have like an hour to yours. I think that we sometimes are waiting for somebody to come in and give us permission to care and to give ourselves what we need. And I'm telling you that person is you. Don't give that power to anyone, not to work, not to your partner, God bless them, not to your kids, God bless them too. But like, they're like, I don't know about yours, but mine are like pretty selfish, and not because they're bad, but just because they're dependent, and that's what kids are supposed to do. Not on your parents. The only person that should have the power to give you permission to prioritize yourself is you. Don't wait, start being your own advocate. So what can this look like? At this juncture, at this point in time, what I am most recommending to my clients and to the people that I work with is actually sleep. I mean, message me privately after if you're like, Amy, I don't relate to this. Like, I am full of energy. I'm getting like 9 hours of sleep. Like, you, my friend, like, God bless you. But I think we're really, really tired, and I think we need to rest. And I think we need physical rest. And honestly, guys, I think that we need mental and emotional rest. Get off social media. Stop looking at other people's lives. The Kardashians, like, aren't that important. Whatever's happening on TMZ, like, Lord, don't, like, for the few sacred minutes or hours that we get with ourselves, don't waste it on somebody else. Read a book, go out and be in nature. Particularly with the older people that I work with, sometimes they'll say, Amy, like, I've been alive for 60, 70 years and I have no idea what my hobbies are. I don't know what like self-care looks like. It's okay. It's your starting place. It's not your end place. But in some ways it's kind of exciting. You get to experiment. Do you like podcasts? Do you like cooking? Do you like baking? Do you like reading? Do you like woodworking? But we need to be able to tap into some sort of exercise or routine or hobby that allows us to take space from the outside world and reconnect with ourselves in a way that's grounding. I don't need you to be like, a cheerleader at the end of your self-care where you're like, I feel like $1 million. Although if you do, that's fantastic. But I want us to strengthen our ability to take up space in our own lives and feel comfortable, feel safe. That really makes a difference when we feel safe within ourselves in terms of building resilience and navigating the chronic stress and the mental health and all of that, right? Knowing where you can create solace within yourself, knowing what that looks like is so powerful. So one, prioritize that rest, both physical and that mental, emotional. I, as a practitioner, I am very supportive of medication. That being said, the research that demonstrates how exercise can be as effective as an antidepressant and anti-anxiety medication is wild. And so what I like to say to people is, why wouldn't we, even if we do take an antidepressant or anti-anxiety, why wouldn't we buffer it a little bit more, right? Add in a 20-minute walk, do a little bit of weights, like feel your body. I've even had people that have that are like missing a limb, and they'll literally like box it out in their chair, but to any way to get that sweat, to release those endorphins, and again, strengthen that relationship that we feel in our bodies, can be so helpful in combating that sense of chronic stress. Because again, we're kind of looking at the outside world and we're saying, this is a whole lot that I'm not in control of, but me being able to take a bit of space in my body, I have choice over that, and I'm going to make the right choices. The other thing that I would say in terms of, managing the uncertainty is know how to release your emotions. And I know that sounds like very, maybe, I don't know if that sounds silly, but so I'll give you a couple of examples. When I am feeling anxious, I'll meditate. I'll meditate and I'll write. I need, because the anxiety in me will say, okay, ask for this person's opinion. What do they think? And what I find is that my anxiety actually just needs me to be quiet for a second. I need to listen to what the fear is, but I need to honor it. I need to acknowledge it, right? Don't get me wrong. I don't always get this right, but that's what I've learned with age. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling that panic, do you know how to regulate yourself? When you're feeling lonely, when you're feeling sad, when you're feeling depressed, you know what you need. For a lot of people, they need contact. They need a person either to speak with or a person to like hold them and just say, it's going to be okay. I'm so sorry. This is such a crap day. I'm so sorry. You know, for people that I know for myself, when I get heated over, you know, things that my clients are going through or stress or whatever it may be, I'll sweat it out. I will go for one. When I am feeling angry, I will go and sweat it out. And 90% of the time I come back to myself and I'm a little bit calmer. I'm a little bit more together. But those really big emotions, the anxiety, the depression, the anger, do you know how to regulate yourself? Do you know how to release that emotion? Meditation, huge, huge. Being able to strengthen our acceptance and say, wow, I am really not in control, but I have some choices about how I process that. I have some choices about my mindset on how I'm going to navigate the reality of this. Meditation can really, really help, both in calming our nervous system, but also, again, creating that peace and that comfort within ourselves. If you haven't tried it, I'd really recommend it. Calm, Headspace, Breathe. And there's so many like free videos on YouTube that are really, really great. The last thing that I'll say, is I would really ask of you guys to give yourself, they say 21 days to create a new habit. If you're to give yourself 21 days to feed yourself right, you don't have to do all of this, but maybe one or two things. Maybe you meditate, maybe you prioritize that sleep, maybe you practice gratitude, whatever it may be that feels like it fits for you. All of the presentations that we've heard today, so many suggestions, pick one, pick two. If you implement them on a daily basis for the better part of 21 days, watch at how much your resilience will be buffered. Witness whether it makes a change in you feeling more grounded, you feeling more present, you feeling more capable of navigating the hardships that we're going through right now. Because I will tell you, in my years of practice, I've never, ever met somebody that said, you know what, Amy, I tried that whole exercise thing for 3 weeks and I felt like garbage after. I've never had anybody say, you know, Amy, I did the meditation. I really took my time with it. Some days I did 30 seconds. Some days I did 10 minutes. And it was horrible. It was just never have I said, never have I heard anybody say, you know, Amy, I practice this whole idea of saying yes when I really mean yes and saying no when I really mean no. And I feel like my life is suffering. Never. I think that there's sometimes so much fear about putting our needs out there and honoring them. But the truth of it is that lived experience is an indication that we feel so much more vibrant as a result. And not only will you be vibrant for you, but you'll be vibrant for those around you. The truth of it is that the uncertainty isn't going to end. But what I'm hoping can shift is our mindset and our perspective of how we navigate that uncertainty. That is it for me. I hope that you guys found this beneficial, and I hope that you take away one or two things to do for you.
Thank you so much, Amy. You gave us way more than one or two things to think about. I think it's you're a great way to wrap up this conference. I really like this idea of sort of, you know, fast forwarding and looking back. So this idea of like nobody after 3 weeks of exercise ever said, God, that was a waste of my time. I hated that, right? And it's the same thing as nobody's ever done a night of hard drugs and the next day being like, that was great. And there's also 20 extra in my pocket. Like, think about, you know, all these things that we do to harm ourselves.
Yeah.
What about the flip? What about when we do
100%, 100%.
Yeah. As somebody, Denise is saying, wonderful, invaluable, down to earth advice, shows we are not alone. It's a universal issue and I love it. People are coming in and saying that was a hit. It all hit home.
Good.
And it's great. I want to say one thing, the one thing I've struggled with, and again, I don't pretend to speak for everybody, but I do know that I have a growing number of friends who are into meditation, but I've always struggled with that. And I know a lot of people are like, how can I, you know, meditate for 20 minutes? How can I shut my mind for 20 minutes? That's inconceivable. And I think it goes back to stuff we've heard all day, which is start small, right? Sometimes you start with 30 seconds or start with a minute.
100%.
You
So
mentioned Calm and you mentioned Headspace. I wonder if you can sort of talk about exactly what those are and maybe guide people who are new to meditation. Now, again, like going back to your exercise, no one I know has tried meditation and said that sucked. Every single person swears by it, but there is fear that stops people from doing it because it conjures up, images of whatever it does, negative, I,
yeah, I mean, take this from somebody who sucks. I'm not good at meditating, but I know, but it's good for me, right? So the apps that I recommended, if people have Netflix, actually Headspace is on Netflix, so you can get it for free, and they have really beautiful like nighttime meditations, different things like that. So probably the three most popular guided meditation apps, and I can write them down here, but it's Headspace, Breathe, and Calm. And all of them have, like trials that you can test them out. But I also, quite seriously, guys, even if you put on your clock like a minute and just practice like that deep breathing of like in through your nose for 4 seconds, hold for between like 4 to 8 seconds, and then release for like all like just box breathing. It can really, really help, like just remind your body that you're actually okay. If we're doing box breathing at home, chances are there's like no life-threatening situation that we have to attend to immediately. But you're absolutely right. So your mind will get bombarded with, oh my gosh, but I have these groceries, I have to do this for work, that person made that comment, it's so irritating. But what we find, what research shows, is that every time your mind goes somewhere else and you have to bring your attention back to your breath, that's where the meditation practice strengthens. It's almost like if you're struggling, you're actually growing your neural network in order to like strengthen your capacity for meditation and regulating yourself. So it's actually a good sign if you're struggling. Right. You can't fail meditation. And by no means, don't start with 20 minutes, start with 2. Come on.
Anne has added that box breathing, 3 or 4 part breath. So yeah. That in holding in for 4 seconds, breathing for 4, intake for 4, hold in for 4, breathe out for 4. Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay. For people who don't know, look that up. And Sandra had also said Muse is also a great tool to help you learn how to meditate. As you mentioned, Headspace, Breathe, and Calm. Sandra above that mentioned Muse, so I want to make sure people take note of that. I know that I certainly will. Amy, thank you so much. Really just a wealth of information. And I think for many of us, it's going to be just a challenge picking on what do we focus on, because there was so much good that came out of what you were talking about and what we heard all day. So
my pleasure, guys. Take such good care of yourselves, okay?
All right. Well, that is it. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for your interest. I hope this is as beneficial to you as it was to me. I used to be a chef for many years, and I used to say, if I taste the food that I've made and I enjoy it, then I know it's good. This is the way I feel. I hosted an event where every speaker gave me such great, concrete, wonderful stuff that I can use or intake and then be inspired by, that I feel like it was a great event to be part of. So congratulations to Hats On. This is their inaugural mental health conference. I'm sure it won't be the last one. Please do spread the word about this event. I'm sure after next year's Hatscarade, there will again be a second year of this conference. Reflection 2022, I'm sure, is already in the works. Now, you can go to the website. You can go to hatson5050.ca to purchase those tickets to play that 50-50 if you still want to get in on that. Presenting sponsor today, again, was Fisher & Paykel. Do want to say thank you to them and to all our sponsors. My name is Ali Hassan. I want to say thank you to both Amy and Frank, who helped organize this event. Hatsonforawareness.com is the website you can go to for more information on what you saw today and ways to reach the speakers you heard from. Have a wonderful day. I think you can't get set up better for a day than you were today. And I hope this is information and resources you take on and keep with you for the rest of your days. Again, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.